In early 2012, Capcom and Bandai Namco's joint effort Street Fighter X Tekken was, after years of hype, finally released, and it received a mixed reception from fans for reasons I'm sure you know about already. Gems, on-disc DLC, timeouts, etc., but I always really enjoyed the game for what it was as a kid. What's important to note is that A, I didn't have internet as a kid, so I had no idea about the whole DLC debacle, and B, I first got the Xbox 360 version of the game, which didn't have any extra characters, so when I eventually got the game for my PS Vita, booting it up for the first time and seeing lots of new characters blew my mind. You're telling me that characters like Sakura, Blanca, Elisa, and Lars were in the game? What? Yeah, it's safe to say that these brand new characters made me even more obsessed with the game than I already was. But hidden among these Street Fighter and Tekken DLC characters were even more characters that weren't from either series, so I was shocked to see them in the game. Kuro, Toro, Cole, PacMan, and Mega Man are all playable characters complete with their own animations, sound effects, VFX, etc., so I wanted to cover them all in today's video. Without further ado, let's begin by analysing possibly the most bizarre character in the entire game, Cole. Cole is the star of the PlayStation 3 exclusive game Infamous, but his appearance in Street Fighter X Tekken is based off how he looks in Infamous 2. To put a long story short, Cole gained electricity powers during the prologue of the first game after something called the Ray Sphere exploded, concentrating all of its energy into Cole himself. Look, just to clarify, I am recording this footage from the PC version of the game, and due to Cole being a character that needs to be modded in, some of his VFX don't render properly, so we're just gonna have to put up with it, unfortunately. Now, you may be thinking, how the hell did Cole of all characters get into this multi-platform Japanese fighting game? And honestly, there's a pretty simple reason for it. Discussions between Sony and Capcom came to it. They were looking for a character, and Capcom got excited about Cole. It seemed like the timing was about right, with Infamous 2 coming out around this time, and it seemed a character that had a lot of possibilities in terms of gameplay. Obviously, there is a big range of moves, and I think we fell in love with the electric tornado like everyone else should have. There was his shockwave in Infamous 2, and we liked that as well. While Cole can leap from building to building and take to the skies in Infamous, he can do no such thing in X Tekken. Instead, Cole is a very heavy, grounded character with an emphasis on mid to close range combat using physical hits. Cole's walk speed is decent, with his back walk being a bit slow and his forward walk being faster, but his forward dash in particular is very good. This allows him to quickly approach the enemy, making Cole an offensive, close range kind of guy. His normals are also surprisingly alright too. Most normals have good range and they can easily be chained into a magic series, allowing him to get his offense started. I especially love his standing kicks. They can be used as pokes in neutral, and his heavy kick in particular reminds me of Jago's wind kick from Killer Instinct. Now let's move on to his specials. The first of which is the Amp combo. This is a single hitting strike that can be followed up by inputting forward in any punch, so it's sort of like Abel's change of direction. I see this move as a pseudo-wrecker due to the follow-ups being optional after the first hit. You don't have to commit to the full string if you don't want to. This move also has slow startup, but it can be used to hit enemies from a distance when they aren't expecting it. The next move is Thunder Drop, and the distance that this move covers depends on the button you press. The heavier the button, the more distance he travels. This move can be used to go over projectiles from a distance, and you can also tag in your partner on hit to start a juggle. I don't think this move is amazing or anything, but if it's used on reaction to punish a slow move like a really slow fireball, it can definitely get the party started. Next up is Shock Grenade, and this projectile is unique because it travels along the ground. The heavier the button, the faster and more distance the move travels. It does very low damage, but this move can be used as an annoyance tool, and I think harassing the enemy with the heavy version specifically can be effective if their character can't easily maneuver around the grenades. Cole's penultimate special move is Lightning Hook and Anti-Air Grab. This move can not only be used as an anti-air, but it can also be comboed into either solo or from a partner. Jumping in against Cole is a risky idea due to this move, and the range isn't that bad either. There's normally meant to be a sort of electric laser beam that shoots out and grabs the enemy, but it doesn't render on PC, so the move just ends up looking really weird. Finally, we have Shockwave. This move can be used as a combo ender and a way to negate projectiles, but it doesn't render properly on PC either. The EX version leads to a wall bounce, and if you're in the corner, you can also tag in and continue the combo. Due to its very slow recovery, this move cannot be used consecutively to win fireball walls, as Cole will be tagged by a Hadouken if he tries to use it over and over again. This isn't a bad move, but its slow recovery ruins any chance it has of being potentially amazing. But if we charge it up, however, Yeah, you're just gonna have to pretend that there's an awesome looking electricity tornado. This is Cole's super, Ionic Vortex, and while it doesn't do amazing damage, it can easily be used as a combo ender, or as a projectile if you throw it out from a distance. Cole also has two command normals, an overhead and a slide which has a follow-up. However, the follow-up isn't guaranteed, it's not a true combo and the enemy can block. Overall, while I don't think Cole is amazing, he certainly has some of the tools needed to win a match. All he's lacking is a true DP and some more ways to get in and start his offense, but overall, I think Cole is really fun and he's a really well made character. Moving on to Toro and Kuro, I'll cover both in one segment because it would take way too long if I did them separately. These guys are the unofficial mascots of PlayStation in Japan, and they originate from a series called Doko Demo Issyo. In Street Fighter X Tekken, however, they are simply clones of Ryu and Kazuya. Let's look at Toro first. Everyone's favorite cat is modeled after Ryu, and as such, he has not only the Hadouken, Shoryuken, Tatsumaki Senpukyaku, and the Donkey Kick, but he also has all of Ryu's command normals. Unlike Ryu, however, Toro has extremely small limbs, so the range of his moves are all horrible. This makes playing neutral and trying to poke almost impossible, but Toro's size actually benefits him in some ways. Most attacks will simply go over his head. He can also throw enemies like Ryu can, and interestingly, his super goes along the ground. I won't try and convince you that this super is good, because realistically, it's horrible, but I find it funny how Toro is forced to throw out the Shinku Hadouken along the ground because his arms don't allow him to throw it through the air. The funniest thing of all, however, is that Toro only has 600 health. This is far below the average health value, and it means that every character in the game can deal massive damage to him while putting in no effort. What's also funny is that in the game's 2013 patch, Toro was actually nerfed. His meter gain from whiffing special moves was reduced, so now he gains even less meter. Trust me, this guy is the ultimate joke character. Now let's look at his neighbor Kuro. Just like Toro, Kuro is also extremely small, so he also goes under many attacks. The major difference between the two, other than their colors, is that Kuro's gameplay is based on Kazuya's move list. He has all of Kazuya's special moves, command normals, and target combos, although some of them will whiff in certain positions due to Kuro's limbs being super small. Kuro also has access to Kazuya's wave dash, so he too can build meter by waving towards you. I will say that Kuro's super is completely different from Kazuya's though. I guess he can't harness the full power of the Devil Gene yet? Maybe not. As a side note, the old Game FAQ's message boards are still up from when these two characters were announced for the game, and the salt contained within is hilarious. Overall, Toro and Kuro feel very lightweight, as opposed to Cole's heavy feeling. Their bouncy jump arcs and quick dashes give these two a nice sense of speed when they zip around the screen, and they feel quite alright to move around with. It's obvious that these two are nothing more than bottom of the tier list joke characters, but who knows, maybe the next character we cover is better. Nope, I lied. PacMan isn't better, he's also very bad. The first and only guest character to represent the Namco side of the roster, PacMan is admittedly a very creative character. It seems that he's carved Tekken's Mokujin into a mecha that he uses to move around, much like how Tronbon gets around in Mega Man with her Gustav robot. For starters, PacMan is extremely slow, his walk speed is horrendous and his dashes aren't much better, so he's a very limited character in terms of mobility. A really cool detail I want to show off is that whenever we get to see the back of the mecha, there is a PacMan maze there, complete with PacMan and ghost sprites that move around in real time. You barely get to see this in an actual match, but it's still a fantastic detail. If you were like me, then right off the bat, you just assumed that PacMan had a lot of health. I mean, in fighting games, characters who are really big and slow tend to have high health, right? But no, PacMan only has 800 health, which I believe is slightly under the average, and this means that a character like Kuma can take off more than a quarter of his life bar with a single command grab. His light normals are all generic in their look and feel, but some of his medium and heavy normals are great due to their fantastic range. PacMan can hit enemies from really far away when he uses his standing heavy kick and crouching heavy punch, for example. Unlike Cole and the cats, PacMan lacks command normals and target combos, but he does have 4 unique special moves, so let's cover those. Doing the move normally performs a soft knockdown which could lead to a strike-through mix-up. Charging the move a little bit sends them away into a hard knockdown, and charging it fully gives you a meterless wall bounce. While it does take a lot of time to charge this move up all the way, having access to something like this isn't that bad. You may think, like me, that the EX version is just the wall bounce but without having to charge it, but that's wrong, because you still need to charge the move up even when you're spending meter. Next up is Hip Attack, and this move can only be performed in the air. This kind of reminds me of Sentinel's old ground pound in Children of the Atom, and at first glance, this is awesome. It's a hard knockdown that can hit from a very ambiguous angle, but the problem is that even on hit, this move has horrible recovery. Seriously, PacMan stays down nearly as long as his opponent does, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's also Flip Kick, which is like a DP, and while the light and medium versions aren't that bad, the heavy and EX versions make PacMan fall out of the Mokujin mecha. This means that you have to wait for him to climb back in, so if this move whiffs, it's essentially a death sentence. As far as I can tell, this move has no invincibility even when you use the EX version, so it'll either trade or just not come out at all if your opponent is doing something simple like a crouching jab. Finally, we have the Pac Dot. This is a standard projectile attack with nothing unique about it, and honestly, it's just kind of like a worse Hadouken. It can easily be blocked or avoided, and it doesn't do that much damage too. Although a detail that I love about this move, however, is that when PacMan goes to fire the ball of energy out, you can actually see the arm of the Mokujin mecha open up, and it looks like PacMan's old sprite. Before we move on to the next character, let's look at PacMan's super, the Pac Laser. Yeah, this also doesn't render properly on PC, unfortunately. This move does 300 damage, which isn't that bad admittedly, but it's mainly a combo tool due to its mediocre range on the initial hit. Honestly, I don't have much to say about this super in detail because it's pretty standard. It's a pretty standard animation, it's pretty standard with how you connect with it, it's nothing too crazy. And speaking of supers, I also love how when you do a team super, PacMan grows really big and headbutts the opponent. Okay, it's time to address the elephant in the room. I'm sure we all know about the legend behind bad box art Mega Man, so I won't get into it. To be honest, I've always kind of felt bad for Mega Man in this game, because not only is he most likely severely depressed and addicted to nicotine, but he also sucks. First up, his walk speed is abysmal, especially his back walk. This is horrifically slow, and I honestly laughed out loud the first time I tried it because of how much it sucks. His dashes, while a bit better, aren't exactly what I'd call good. They cover a decent amount of ground, but they're very slow and committal. Yeah, we're not off to a great start, are we? Like PacMan, Mega Man also has no command normals, so we're gonna have to get straight into his regular normals. Honestly, they're all kind of boring. They're just generic physical hits, and I would have liked it if they incorporated some of the weapons that he gained along the way in his journeys into his move list. His standing medium kick moves him forward though, which, in theory, is good for pressure, so honestly not that bad. On the other side of the coin, however, his standing heavy kick is disgustingly bad. I mean, just look at this range. Mega Man puts in all that effort to get around his beer belly and lift himself up, but he still misses despite being literally next to Kuma. As a word of warning, most of Mega Man's specials don't render properly on PC, and speaking of specials, let's jump right in. First is Ice Slasher, and I don't think this move is that bad honestly. I mean sure, it does low damage and it doesn't go very far and it's also pretty slow, but the projectile itself creates a wall that Mega Man can travel behind, and this property reminds me of Poison's projectile. It doesn't freeze the enemy in place for very long though, which severely impacts its overall usability. Thunder Beam is up next, and this can only be performed during a neutral jump. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's good for covering two angles at once, down and forward, and it's also good to stop enemies from approaching. The chances of this move actually making contact are slim to none, but it's better than not having it, I guess. Plus, I like the glitchy fire VFX that it has on the PC version due to a rendering issue. There's also the Mega Uppercut, which is Mega Man's version of a Shoryuken. What kills this move though is that the range is horrible. It has very slow startup and there is no invincibility. On the bright side, if you manage to somehow land the EX version in the corner, you can juggle with a light DP afterwards, which I think is pretty cool. Finally, we have the iconic Mega Buster. This is a pretty standard projectile, and the EX version does lead to a soft knockdown. Like PacMan's projectile, this move does low damage, but hey, having a projectile in general allows Mega Man to sort of fight effectively from a distance. Although his slow walk speed and dashes make me believe that Mega Man will constantly be up close to the enemies since it's not like he can run away from them or fly away, right? Now, let's get into the good stuff. Let's look at his super. Oh. Well, that was underwhelming. Yeah, Mega Man Super is just a more powerful version of his Mega Buster, and while it does look kind of lame, I'll say that having a simple, no-frills super is actually pretty good for corner combos. While all of the guest characters are banned competitively due to them not being on the Xbox 360 version of the game, I think that these characters are all really fun to use. In terms of competitive viability, they all suck, except for Cole in my opinion, so honestly, we didn't really miss out on much when these guys were banned. They are all very easy to access on either the PS3/PS Vita or even the PC versions of the game, so if you're interested, I highly recommend trying them out and maybe playing with friends. Street Fighter X Tekken is a game that I've loved a lot ever since I was a kid. I mean, I even got the game on launch day. So revisiting the game and testing out all of these guest characters was really good fun, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.